All right, we have our 3 media queries in place. We're ready to now move forward and build out the HTML structure. Okay, so once again, how it's going to work is we're going to have a single HTML document, which is going to contain all the building blocks, if you will, for our layout, which we've been working so hard on inside Photoshop, of course. And it's the external style sheet containing the 3 media queries that's going to adjust those building blocks for us. Okay, so what we're going to do in this next series of exercises is set up these HTML building blocks. Okay, now if you want, you don't have to do this, but if you want, you could have Photoshop running in the background. Here I've got my high resolution layout just as a reference. Okay, so we're going to build out this structure using, of course, HTML elements, HTML building blocks. And what I'm going to do here, and I think this is a very contemporary way to do this, is we're going to use HTML5 building blocks. Okay, so here's how it's all going to go down. I'm going to head back to my coding application, and I'm going to head into my index.html file, okay, where I had previously inserted my name, which we can go ahead and get rid of. So what I'm going to do right off the bat, if you've never done this sort of stuff before, I'll try and go easy on you here, but there's going to be a little bit of typing here. What I want to do is I want to insert what's referred to as a header element. So this is an HTML5 element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in open angle bracket, HEADER. Okay, and then close angle bracket. And then once again, my coding application, Coda, goes ahead and inserts the closing header tag for me, which is great. Okay, now this header element, this guy here, is going to serve as the header back inside the Photoshop layout. So he eventually is going to contain our logo as well. Okay, as a matter of fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll zoom in on my layout here just a little bit so we can kind of track this as we go. All right, now directly beneath the header, of course, we have our main navigation menu. So here's how I'm going to build the main navigation menu over inside my code. I'm going to drop my cursor just below the header, and I'm going to go ahead and type in open angle bracket nav, close angle bracket, and then make sure to close this guy off as well, open angle bracket / nav, close angle bracket. This is a second HTML5 element that we have available. They're available to us, so we may as well make use of them. So let's see. I'm going to move my cursor down maybe a line or so. As a matter of fact, let me space things apart here just so you can see how this is all coming together here. This is all going inside the body element, of course, right? All right, now if I head back to Photoshop, the next main layout component that we have is going to be the slideshow. Now, there's no HTML element for a slideshow. We have the header, we have the nav. There's nothing in HTML called slideshow. So here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to make use of what's referred to as a div. And if you've never worked with divs before, think of it as a giant rectangle. And we can control the dimensions and even the positioning of that rectangle. So here's how to code it in. I'm going to go open angle bracket div. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually assign an ID to this div. Sit tight here if you're not sure exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to go open angle bracket div space ID equals, and then in quotes, slideshow. Okay? All lowercase, no spaces. And then after the closing quote, I'm going to go close angle bracket. And then I also, once again, want to make sure that I'm going to close that div off. Now, just to slow down just for a second, just to make sure we're all on the same page, this thing called an ID is eventually going to wind up as a CSS rule. So we're going to have to go and create what's referred to as an ID selector inside our external style sheet called slideshow, which we'll get to in just a little bit. I hope that is working for you. I'm going to head back over to Photoshop. And let's see, I'll scroll down here a little bit. Next, we have our 3 content boxes, okay? So once again, in HTML5, there's no such thing as content box, this sort of thing. So once again, I'm going to have to make it up using a div, okay? Now, I'm going to change it up slightly here for you. Here's what I'm going to do this time. I'm going to go open angle bracket div, just like we did a moment ago. And then this time, I'm going to go class equals, and then in quotes, content box. Okay, make sure that's in quotes and then close the angle bracket and then go ahead and close your div. Now I'm going with something called a class now, which you might know about. This is a different kind of CSS selector. I want to have a total of 3 content boxes inside my layout, of course, as we've built not only for the high resolution, but also for the medium and the low resolution designs that we've been working on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the code that you and I had typed out here inside our HTML document, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'll paste it twice, just like so, okay, for a total of 3 content boxes, okay? All right, we are almost there. We're almost finished the main structure for our document. I'm going to move down just below the last content box. If I flip back over to my document, then we get into our news feed, where we have our article titles and some placeholder text for each of our news items, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make use of an HTML5 element called article, okay? So I have 4 of them in here, so I'm going to go and insert 4 articles into my HTML code, okay? So quite literally, open angle bracket, article, close angle bracket, and then make sure to close your article, just like that, okay? And again, we need 4 of them in total, so I'm just going to grab this fella and copy him, and then very simply just paste him out, so I have a total of 4 of them. That's it. That's all there is to it. And then, of course, last but not least, if I head back to Photoshop, we have our footer way down at the bottom, okay? And we have an HTML5 element called footer, so why don't we make use of them? So way down at the bottom of my code here, I'm going to go open angle bracket, F-O-O-T-R, close angle bracket, and then be sure to close your footer as well. That's it. This is the very, very raw structure, all of the building blocks that are necessary for rebuilding what we've created, what we've been working so hard on inside Photoshop, now inside the world of code.